Good evening, Canby. Welcome to a 6:30 very special city council meeting. The piece of business that we're going to take care of right here in the special meeting is the appointment of an interim city administrator. A couple weeks ago, council directed myself in conjunction with our city attorney to go and begin the process of doing that, and we brought back, went and tried to reach out to a couple of people and ended up with, I think, somebody that will help lead us through the next phase here for a little while, and in Eileen Stein. And so I'm here to hopefully get a motion to appoint Eileen Stein as our new our interim city administrator.
If you're just looking for a motion, Mr. Mayor, I move to appoint Eileen Stein as interim city administrator.
And I will second.
Okay, any discussion?
Why do you always look at me?
You're the most, well.
I'm a chatty guy, I understand.
And the only one that
Just
says
you
nay
wait through
to
the
an
next
adjournment.
section of this meeting.
Because your green lights
Because you're actually, you just.
And your green light's on.
I do have my button on.
Oh, man. That's why I even asked. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, well, thank you very much. Eileen, welcome to the city of Canby. All right.
And we have negotiated terms, and so she's ready to sign this contract right now, so she will even be joining us for our very next meeting.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. Is this an official adjournment or just a pause?
You could recess.
All right, well, then I will recess our city council meeting until 7 o'clock. So please tune back in or watch us.
Or watch the screen that has
Screen, yeah.
from the building on it.
Thank you, Canby. Good evening, Canby. Welcome to the May 17th regular city council meeting. If you please stand for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance, please. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for this great community, this beautiful weather that we have had, and all the things that make this community great. I want to thank you for our first responders, in putting them in defense of our city. Please bring them home safely every night to their families and loved ones. I ask that you provide wisdom, discernment, and compassion with the leaders in our community, both here on the dais and throughout. I ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we move into proclamations this evening, I want to take a moment and introduce everyone to Eileen Stein. She is our new, she's our interim city administrator here for it could be a little while, but we're glad that you're here, and welcome to your first Canby City Council meeting. And councilors, please be nice. So the first proclamation that I have this evening is for the 2023 National Police Week. So this proclamation, say that twice, proclamation declaring the week of May 14th to May 20th, 2023 as National Police Week. Whereas in 1962, President John F. Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day. And the calendar week in which May 15th falls is as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the Canby Police Department play an essential role in protecting and safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the Canby community, and whereas it is important that all residents and visitors know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices made by the members of the City of Canby Police Department, and whereas the City Council of the City of Canby gratefully thanks the men and women of the Canby Police Department who continue to choose to serve and protect our residents, businesses, and visitors. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Canby hereby proclaims May 14th to May 20th, 2023 as National Police Week, and further extends our appreciation and support to Chief George Troe and all members of the City of Canby's Police Department for their vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication and service to the community. Given unto my hand the 17th day of May 2023 in the city of Canby, Oregon.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate it. Thank you, Councilor. Yeah.
You want to say a few words?
I'll say yes. Thank you. This is a great community to work in. We have great support from our citizens, great support from the council, but really it's the men and women of the Canby Police Department that keep our city safe. There was going to be a few more coming, but they're on the call. So the ones that can't come showed up. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, officers. Yeah. The second proclamation is declaring the week of May 21st to the 27th, 2023 as National Public Works Week. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainability in resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Canby. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our residents. And whereas it is the public interest for the residents, civic leaders, and children in Canby to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2023 marks the 63rd Annual National Public Work Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Be it now, therefore, I, Brian Hodson, do hereby proclaim and designate the week of May 21st to the 27th, 2023 as National Public Works Week, and urge all residents to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designated to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contribution they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. Given under my hand the 17th day of May, 2023, in the city of Canby, Oregon. And then I believe Jeff is here to accept this.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, appreciate it. Can you say a few words?
Just thank you, Mayor and Council, for taking the time to recognize us. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes and stuff that doesn't show exactly. So we appreciate this acknowledgement.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, guys.
It's nice, and I think it's important that we do these proclamations, especially for our different departments in the city. And I know that our police officers, both, throughout the department, do a tremendous job in keeping Canby safe. We've been, as long as I've been mayor, we've been one of the top 10 safest cities in the state of Oregon, and I attribute that to the men and women of Canby PD, so I really do appreciate that. And Jeff, please take back to the rest of the Public Works team our appreciation. It's not always a lot of thanks in the job. It's often very dirty and very messy. But like the proclamation says, somebody's got to help keep the lights on and the water flowing when I turn on that light switch and turn on the faucet in the morning. So I really do appreciate our Public Works team and all the things that they do. So thank you to them. Please share that thanks. And Joe and I were just talking today. We're going to figure out, we'll bring donuts to the police department and we'll do something nicer for Public Works. I'm just kidding, you guys. But thank you both. I thank all of you for the hard work you do to keep Canby a great city. So thank you. Next up on the agenda this evening is the citizen input and community announcement. So this is an opportunity for citizens to address the council on non-agenda items. If you are interested in addressing the council here personally, on the back podium are these great little yellow cards that you can fill out and give them to Maya, our city recorder. She'll make sure I get it, and we'll give you your 3 minutes of time. If you need to use more than 3 minutes, then please, have someone buy time and to go over that time limit. If you are wanting to zoom in to give a community announcement, please let the city recorder know before usually 4 o'clock or 4:30 on the day of the city council meeting, and we'll make sure that you're teed up to be able to do that. Do we have anyone online that's willing to address? No. Okay. I have 2 comment cards, and our first one is thank you, sir. Paul, you live his locker. I know, and he's saying it in my ear over here, Paul. And he wants to talk about high school fireworks.
Yes.
Come on up, sir.
Thank you.
Wow.
Seriously, Paul is fine. I don't even know if I'm saying my name right.
Well, thanks for being here, Paul.
I'm going to be nice tonight because this is your first night. Yeah, right. There's really kind of an underlying problem with the way these fireworks are being done via the school. Let me get my head around all of this. Their core value statements. I'm doing this definition. I've provided them before, and this is just for the sake of this little diatribe you're going to hear. This is definitions provided by Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary. Truth, the state of being, the case. Fact, the body of real things, events and facts. Actuality. Lie, an untrue or inaccurate statement that may or may not be believed true by the speaker. Something that misleads or deceives. Following is the core value statement of the Canby School District. Canby School District shall promote non-discrimination and an environment free of harassment based on an individual's race, color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, national origin, disability, marital status, or age in its programs and activities. Programs and activities are an important part here. This is a fact. Canby High School is the only school out of the 8 or 9 schools to use explosive devices. Canby High School varsity football team is the only team that has explosives. That has explosive devices at their games. Please consider the following questions. What is the gender of the varsity football team? Why does the Canby School District, excuse me, I've lost my place again. I might run over a little. Okay. Why does the Canby School District, regarding the explosive devices, discriminate against the other schools, the other teams, and especially the other teams that represent Canby High School? What is the gender of some of these teams? Why do you think you can disrupt our neighborhood with the use of explosive devices and not the other neighborhoods within school zones? That is not inclusive or equitable. This is discrimination, abusive behavior, and harassment to us as well as our pets that creates distress because of your program and activity. Some members of the City Council endorsed specific candidates for the school board. I'm asking for your endorsement as well as the rest of the City Council members to end the explosions at the Canby High School football games. I'm paraphrasing the City Council, and I'm going to be nice to you guys today. The City Council values and goals: honesty, ethics, accountability, adhere to high standards, ethical conduct, inclusive community, exceptional service, and improve the quality of life of our citizens. I'm asking you to consider your core values and goals. The answer is obvious. This should no longer be tolerated, ignored, or rewarded. And you guys are appreciated, by the way. So thank you.
Councilor Vargas.
Yeah, Paul, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really do appreciate it. You have been heard over the last several years that you've been coming here.
Umpty nine.
I don't know if you realize this last fall, Canby High School did not use any explosives during the football games.
No, they did.
They did not, because they actually no longer are able to due to the turf infields. I was speaking with Tom Scott, who's on the school board and was the one who donated the fireworks when he owned Western Fireworks, and he was telling me the reason that they stopped doing them this year was because of turfing the infields of the baseball fields, so they no longer have enough room for the fireworks to fall.
So we're done?
It's, from my understanding,
There were none last.
they're done. They did not use them this last fall.
Yeah.
And I was at all the games.
Our board plays, they didn't have them.
Yeah. So anyways, I just wanted you to know that,
Well, thank
so
you.
that you have that comfort of knowing Tom Scott, who had donated the fireworks, is no longer
What was the
donating them.
fireworks? I knew I was coming out. I had surgery that year,
Sure.
laying on my couch recouping.
Yeah, yeah.
And one explosion from the football game came or somebody blew one
It
off.
may have been from somewhere else, but it was, from my
okay.
understanding, it was not at the football games because of turfing. Of last summer, they turfed those baseball fields, and they no longer are safe to let those off, from my understanding. But and I was at the games, and I know that they did not let them off. So anyways,
Councilor Patton,
just wanted to share that with you.
So I just want to let you know, I will contact Chair Moggenheimer as the liaison to the Canby School Board. I was going to ask if you.
Can you please turn on your microphone,
Mike.
Councilor Patton? Thank you.
Here we go again.
There we go. So anyways, as the liaison to the Canby School Board, I was going to ask if you have chatted with the school board recently about this, like attended a school board meeting and talked to them.
I have not, because in my world, it doesn't make any sense for me to go to talk to the school board when the city council is the one that gives permission for
That's
this or
granted.
not.
Okay, that's great.
But I'd be happy to talk to anybody if they're willing to listen And these explosions don't need to happen. The kids still, yeah, that's proper language, they're kids.
Yeah.
They play, they do their games, I hear the cheering, it's great. I love it from my house.
Sure.
So-
I just want to let you know, I will reach out to Chair Magenheimer, who is the chair of the school board, and get clarification if they are or are not using the fireworks, and then communicate that back to this group, who then can get it communicated to you, whether that's happening or not, if that works.
And just as a point of, I guess, fact, I believe there was a time where they were also used at a graduation or something like that. Correct. And so you might ask if there was an intent to maybe not do games because of the turf, but maybe if there was going to be an intent. And then we could share that with him so that you would know in advance if fireworks would be used at any other event.
And again, compromise, if the explosions go away at the football games because they're random, and being a person that suffers from certain things, it's just god-awful. And I don't like what it does to my pet. Graduation, I can live with it because it's a specific time, it's one thing, and most of the people that go to high school might get a chance to be a graduate, whereas the others is just specific to whether you're a team member or not. So I could support that.
Okay.
If you would do me a big favor and reach out to me as soon as possible with that language, because if it comes back negative, I'm going to keep plugging here. And then I'd really like not to.
Sure.
With the support of the council, by the way.
Thank you,
That'd
Mr.
be nice.
Mayor. I was actually just going to piggyback on what Councilor Barwig said, because I also attended the games, as you attended most of them as well, because we have a boy who plays. And there is disappointment that the booms weren't happening, because it is a fact that because of the new infield, they're not doing them there. So they probably won't do them for graduation since it's held outside. But I did actually observe in my own experience some distant fireworks being held in the neighborhood. We can't control that.
Right.
Well, we can. George, you heard that, right? Okay. So there you go. That's all I can offer is there were some fireworks being done, but it wasn't on school property.
I have a neighborhood that's full of it on the 4th, and it's like it's a day that I can go bury my head. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just one more comment. I just text Superintendent Aaron Downs, and he did confirm that it stopped as a good turn.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go.
There you go. You're off the
Now
next
you know.
Yay.
So it's done.
It's over. Yay, thank you.
Thank you.
I go home now.
Next person for citizen comment is Greg Perez, talking about community.
This will be short and good evening, city. Good evening, city councilors and Mayor Hudson.
Say so soon.
Today, what I'm doing is I'm speaking on behalf of the community, city citizens, and that had concerns, and this has been going on for months, so it's been accumulated, and I put it together. Today, I'm here because of the community questions, and they are wondering in which direction the city is going. Concerned are those in the city of Canby of what has transpired over the last 6 months, if not longer. Public Works has come before this board citing a hostile work environment. Other issues that have taken place in the loss of workers at the city library, complaining a hostile work environment, and complaints about the upper administration of not handling these situations. Questions are being asked why the city attorney is wearing 2 hats. They want to know if it's costing the city more money with this in place. They claim it could be a conflict of interest. The community also wants to know if all city personnel is working on premise or from home. Their concern is all department heads should be on the premise to be effective when needed. We know as a community that your volunteer positions can be tough at times, but being in a position of authority and control, there are times you have to make some tough decisions. Good leaders make tough decisions. The community states that you have to set your feelings aside and do what is good for the city work environment, all city departments, and the community. Working overall as a team will direct our city to success. And I'm not questioning anything. I just want this to be on record. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda this evening is approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda that includes the minutes of the March 1st, 2023 Joint Planning Commission and City Council work session and regular City Council meeting, and the approval of the off-premise OLCC application for King's Farm to Table located at 241 Northwest 2nd Avenue.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Varwig to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the March 1st, 2023 Joint Planning Commission and City Council work session and regular council meeting, and the approval of the off-premise OLCC application for King's Farm to Table located at 241 Northwest 2nd Avenue. Any discussion or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0 tonight. Next up is resolutions and ordinances. We have quite a few of those this evening. So the first one is considering resolution number 1382, the adopting the revised draft park naming policy. And Jeff's not here, but Joe?
Yeah, I can handle that. This is a resolution for you to officially adopt the revised draft park naming policy. This got vetted through the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and they are in favor of it. And so it's now in front of you to officially adopt it so that it can be the new policy for when they look at naming parks.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions for staff? Do you have a question, or you want to?
I have to make a motion.
Okay. Question for staff?
Not question for staff, just a comment as the Park Advisory Liaison. I sat through this several times with the Park and Rec Committee. They've done an excellent job on this and supported 100%. With that, I'll make the proposed motion. I move that the council approve resolution 1382, a resolution adopting the revised park naming policy as submitted.
I guess I'll second.
Okay. Motion's been made by Councilor Davis and seconded by Councilor Varwig to approve resolution number 1382, a resolution adopting the revised park draft naming policy as submitted. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that passes 4-0.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for getting this on the agenda.
Nope, and I appreciate the park board understanding the delay and getting it there, but yes, glad to get it on there. Item B under resolutions and ordinances is resolution number 1383, a resolution authorizing a rate increase and establishing a new rate schedule for garbage collection by Canby Disposal within the city of Canby. And I know we got the guys from Canby Disposal here tonight. Thank you for being here. Joe?
Yeah, so this is a resolution that is in our franchise agreement for the exclusive franchise that Cahoots has with the city of Canby for garbage disposal. It calls for them to come and ask for any rate increases annually to come in front of you guys as close to about May 15th as possible, so that the rates could then go up on July 1. So they are here. There is in our franchise agreement a methodology that is laid out that the gentlemen have attempted to follow. And so they are asking, it is in the franchise agreement, it's a shall, unless they're asking for a special rate increase. The adjustment that is laid out per the calculation in the franchise agreement is a shall. So if they're asking for that amount, that is something that is contracted. So, and that's the expectation on this particular item, although there are, in conversations with Councilor Padden in specific, there may be some other questions that the council has. And I see Councilor Varwig also signaling. So if you want to invite the gentleman up to kind of to talk about their proposal, and then if you have any questions for them, I will be here with the actual franchise if there's questions legally speaking.
Great, thank you. Gentlemen.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us tonight. We're, as was stated, we were here asking for our annual rate increase per the franchise agreement. We've obviously experienced quite a bit of cost increases over the last year, inflationary pressures, disposal increase costs, labor costs have obviously increased so we can retain and employ good drivers to service the community here in Canby. So we are asking for 6.5% increase, somewhere right in there. Any questions?
Yeah, I really appreciate you gentlemen being here, and I know you all, along with your predecessors in the ownership of Canby Disposal, have been very good community members and partners with the city and the community as a whole. Couple of things that have been elevated, I'm sure, with ice storms and things like that, and interruptions of service and things like that, and those things are going to happen. I guess what I'm looking for from you all is maybe like some key learnings with that situation and how in the future, those can be mitigated so that, I'm sure your guys' phones lit up often and frequently and, very much. And I know that many of us up here had the same or similar conversation. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of maybe have you guys shed some light on that.
Sure, yeah, and appreciate you bringing that up. It was a challenging winter by all means for a lot of us, and I'll be the first to say that we made a mistake and didn't operate in Canby, and we'll own that. In our industry, it's a challenging situation at times because not along the lines of is there snow in Canby, but is there snow at the disposal facilities where we, have to take the trash to. So we did have some challenging decisions to make. I think that we as a company could have done better on a decision that we made in Canby not to operate when the snow wasn't in Canby. At that time, we did speak with Councilor Davis and former City Administrator Scott Archer as well, met with them and talked about our challenges, but I can say with confidence that is not going to repeat. I appreciate you mentioning the previous ownership. Acquiring a company the size of K-Hoots with multiple locations and a lot of employees has been challenging, to say the least. Not making excuses, but I think that's some of the reality of buying a business right after post-COVID. But by all means, I appreciate you bringing that up, and we're going to do a better job of that going forward, especially in those snow and ice storms. So appreciate that. Yeah. Councilor Farmer.
Yeah, thank you so much. I so appreciate you guys being here. I kind of made a tongue-in-cheek comment before we started, you guys coming in and saying it's going to be hard. It's hard to ask for money, and I get it. I'm a small business owner. I recently raised my rates. As a matter of fact, I raised them yesterday and then had to raise them again today. That was hard. It was difficult. But you're right, costs have increased. One of the things that I have to make sure when I raise my rates is that my customer service stays at the same rate that my rates are. And I know that, as you admitted to tonight, and thank you for owning that. I really do appreciate that. It's a difficult thing to have to say we messed up, but we all do it. And so hopefully, this is a public record of you guys saying that your commitment to customer service will remain. You obviously had very big shoes to fill. The Cahus were incredible community members, and I don't envy you trying to take over their business and all that they did. And so, one of the complaints that I have heard is that, prior ownership, if they missed a day, everything would bump out a day, versus now it seems like if we missed a day, whoever missed Monday or Tuesday doesn't get picked up till next Monday or Tuesday. And I think our community would love to see it go back to, if you miss a day, I can wait a day for my garbage to be picked up. And so if you miss a day, everybody misses a day. You're a day later. So, we're trying to make up some time over there. But I think that's the biggest complaint that I have heard this last year. And if we're going to approve a rate increase for you, I want our community to be assured that you guys understand that that's their frustration.
Definitely understand that, and I do apologize. Like Josh said, we definitely made a mistake. One of the things with snow and ice events, if we miss one day, we certainly just push everything a day and then work the following, work that Saturday. So we're just a day behind the rest of the week. when we miss 2 days, that throws a wrench in that plan due to hours of service regulations. We can't work, we have to have 34 hours off, like a reset period. So if we work Saturday and Sunday, we won't be able to work the Monday. So certainly, as Josh said, it won't repeat the way it happened last year, and we'll do better. But if, like I said, if there's a major event where there's multiple days missed, it does make it challenging to catch up everybody in that week.
Yeah, absolutely understand that. I think as a community, we're all happy to miss a couple of days so that somebody doesn't have to miss 2 weeks, right? So, yeah, take care of the people who were missed, and I'll wait 2 days. So I'm happy to wait 4 days. So
you definitely have our commitment as a council, and
thank you.
Customer service is, our high priority. Safety's the #1 priority, but customer service is definitely second to that. And we are committing to you that we will make sure we do better going forward.
And I would just like to add one more comment. I think somebody said comment earlier about leaders make tough decisions, and Chris and I have been in this business a long time, many years before the Cahoot family company that we acquired, and making the decision to not operate is probably one of the hardest we do in our career. It impacts so many people, not only the community, but our team, our disposal facility, so it is a difficult one. So we appreciate the comments and glad that we can have the discussion with the council and the community. So
I would like to reiterate that it's always the hardest decision ever to make. We get out 2:30 in the morning, we're driving around the roads trying to figure out, okay, can our trucks safely do this or not? And it's always a difficult decision.
I understand you guys. My business has trucks on the road too, so I have the same mindset as you guys, and it is very, very difficult, right? And what's even more difficult is having to have those conversations with the customers later. Why? Because they don't always understand why, right? And it's not just because my street didn't have snow or ice. Doesn't mean that another person's street didn't. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys being here. Thanks.
Sure. Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Likewise, I've heard very similar comments from community members. And just in addition to that frustration was that they were missed. They had to wait an extra week or but there was also no credit on their bill. So they paid you to come get it and you didn't. So that was kind of like the salt in the wound. They were a little frustrated by that. So if you're not going to be able to do it within a couple of days, maybe do some credit adjustments, and an apology would be helpful because the community was very frustrated.
Sure, fair.
Understandable.
Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you guys for coming. And they did reach out to the city administrator and myself at the time that this happened, and took full ownership of it. And I really appreciate that. And I do know that you guys have a tough decision, but I do also appreciate you looking at safety too, because of the fact that if by chance you made a decision to drive a truck that day and it did pile into somebody, we'd be hearing that side of it too. So I think that safety is very important as well. So those are tough decisions. The other thing is I appreciate how you've picked up on a lot of the activities that the Cahoots were doing, like Shred-It Day. And I know 2 years ago we had a Shred-It Day, and the shredded truck, the old shredded truck from Cahoot broke down. These guys brought a truck from Vancouver to continue the shred it. So they could have very easily just stopped it at that point, but they actually brought a truck from Vancouver to continue with the shred it. And a great job again this year with the Shred It Day. So thanks for what you do.
Thank you, Councilor Davis.
Councilor Patton, and you got something else? Yeah.
Yes, so I echo many of the things that the other councilors have mentioned regarding the ice storm, but I would like to elaborate a little further. In your customer service, I've been a Canby disposal customer now for 12 years, and you've owned the company now for 2 or 3 years?
1.5.
1.5. I have got to tell you that trying to deal with your customer service is like trying to give yourself a root canal with a hand mixer. It is painful. The chat bot, which I used during the ice storm, made me want to gouge my eyes out. And then I never actually got a chance to talk to a real person a week after this whole thing happened. And then afterwards, I got an email from a representative from your company saying, oh, by the way, we're sorry, we think you may have been missed on a previous email to let you know that you can just put an extra bag of garbage out by your current can, and we'll pick it up during your regular pickup time. I understand that problems are going to happen, but it makes the city look horrible, okay? I've also gotten calls from members of this community, not just about the ice storm, but about their normal pickups not occurring, and then there being delays in those trucks coming back to empty out those cans. So, in preparation for this, I've done a little research. My question to you is, did you bring a copy of your franchise agreement with you tonight?
We did not.
I have a copy of it because I'm going to be referencing some of these pieces. Here you go.
Thank you.
So first, on page 30 of that document, it says that the company shall be prepared to review its operations plans with the city once annually upon a 30 days written notice requesting said review. I will be recommending at the end of this conversation that we initiate this clause in this agreement. Not in an effort to try and cancel it, but an effort to try and make things better. If you go to page 41 of that document, there is a section that pertains to a contingency plan. I foresee the contingency plan being something that the city has on file that can be used in an effort to help communicate things like this when there's problems. It says the company shall submit to the city or on or before the commencement date of the agreement a written contingency plan demonstrating company's arrangements to provide vehicles and personnel and to maintain uninterrupted service during breakdowns and in case of natural disasters or other emergencies, not including a labor dispute, including the events described in section 12.4. I have done some asking around the city, and it appears that there is no copy of this contingency plan on file at the city. I think it might be good, considering this original agreement was entered in like 2010, that you folks work with the city to create a more comprehensive contingency plan for situations like this. If there is a contingency plan on file at your place, it'd be great to get it to the city, but I could see where after a decade, it might be time to update that plan. Fast forwarding to page 47, actually I'm gonna hold off on 47. We're gonna talk about company office. So on page 50, it says, this is line 21 on page 50 of that document. Company shall have a representative answering the telephone or voicemail service available at said after hours telephone number. I think we might need to look at that and review that, because that to me means that when I call your office, I shouldn't be getting a recorded message right during regular office hours. So I think we might need to look at updating that to make it more relevant to your phone tree. Below that, it says complaint, documentation, and response. Line 52, company shall log all complaints received by telephone, and said log shall include the date and time the complaint was received, the name, the address, and telephone number of caller, description of complaint, employee recording complaint, and the action taken by company to respond to and remedy the complaint. All written customer complaints and inquiries shall be date stamped when received and shall be initially responded to within 1 business day of receipt. I think there's a problem there. I'm curious if you have this call log and this complaint log at your office. Do you know if you have this?
We document everything in our routing software called RMO, so.
Okay.
As far as the actual log, I cannot say if we have that or not, but
Okay.
it's all documented in our system.
So to go along with that, it says the daily log of complaints concerning the collection of solid waste and such shall be maintained for a minimum of 24 months and shall be available for view by city during business hours and at no cost. Is it possible for you to provide us with a copy of this 24 months worth of complaint log so that we can get a better understanding of how the complaints have been tracking there for you folks over the last 2 years?
Yeah, I think to Chris's point, we document everything in our billing system. To look back beyond the date that we purchased the Cahoot family companies, I don't know that I can speak to that without looking and verifying first. But certainly hear your concern on the complaint log and being able to provide that per the franchise agreement. So.
Okay, excellent. The next part is, do we have so in here, there is a section that says, on page 51, line 22, upon execution of this agreement, the company shall designate in writing a government liaison who shall be responsible for working with the city administrator and or city's designated representative. Do you have a specific representative for us here or not?
Yeah, that would be me.
That's you. Okay, great. I think it might be good just to make sure that that is in writing now that we've had some turnover in our city administrator, that we have that on record. The next section on page 63 is regarding a performance hearing. Annually, the city may, but is not required to hold a public hearing on or about 90 calendar days after receipt of the company's annual report. We're going to get to an annual report here in a little bit. I think, as I had said before, I think it's time that we have one of these public hearings. I think it would be good for the citizens of Canby to be able to come in and maybe express their frustrations or good experiences about the service that they've gotten to you, so that you have a chance to hear this directly from them. My other question is, are we able to compel Cahoot to do a customer satisfaction survey and provide us with the data that survey yields?
If it's not in the contract, I believe that the contract language calls for them to not only do quarterly reports, but an annual report, and as part of those, to have any complaints or any lapse of services in those. So if that's an extra thing that they're willing to do, you can ask them to do it, but it's not in the contract to compel it.
Okay. I'd love to see you do a customer service survey and get a base point of where we are at today, and then see what that is in a year to see if we're making progress towards, making things better for the citizens. Let me just see, 5 calendar days after receipt. Okay, so the next section is regarding these reports. Do you currently provide annual or quarterly reports to the city regarding your service?
I was just thinking that as you were speaking, Councilor Patton. We have not since we took over the contract.
Okay.
Do we in other municipalities and areas? By all means.
Okay.
We have, so.
So with that, I will just bring your attention to page 68, line 8. It says quarterly reports shall be submitted no later than 45 calendar days after the end of each quarter. Quarters end on September 30th, December 31st, March 31st, and June 30th. Annual reports should be submitted before September 30th following the end of the rate period. And I will just let you know, and I'm not asking for this to be activated, but in section on page 87, lines 1, section D, as far as timeliness of submitting to the city these reports, for a quarterly report, for every day that the report is late being turned into the city, it is a $100 a day fine. And for the annual report, it too is a $100 a day fine. I would hate to have a clause like that activated because you have missed that in review of this particular franchise agreement.
I'm fairly certain we provide the quarterly reports and the annual reports as far as tonnage goes. The complaint summary, I'm not positive that's being done, but I'm fairly certain the quarterly reports and annual reports as far as tonnage have been submitted.
Okay.
Tonnage and revenues and, yeah,
So yes, I would like to see this stuff activated. I think by doing this, it is going to bring some confidence to the citizens of this community that we as a council have our finger on the pulse of this, and that the partnership that you have had many years, your predecessors had many years here with the city, continues in good standing, if that makes sense. That's all I have.
And if I may, Councilor Patton, I appreciate the comments and the kind of clarity of the expectations of the franchise agreement. And one thing I will say, you make fair points, especially about the call center, as well as some of the customer service in the field with the drivers. We, much like many companies, have really struggled with labor and staffing. Hiring people has been incredibly challenging lately, especially in the driver and mechanic wages. So we have had our challenges, not an excuse, and nonetheless, that has definitely impacted our call volumes. We have worked quite hard to get those corrected, including hiring additional staff above our normal headcount to try to dig out of that hole. But your comments are very well heard and definitely concerning to us as a company and as leaders running the Cahute family company. So I did want to mention that. And the other thing, again, I started with appreciate the clarity of the expectations. Sometimes when we take over new contracts with cities and counties, we're unsure of that previous reporting or how that looked. We should have done a more thorough review of this and met with city administrators to determine what those expectations are, or if there had been precedent set with submitting those in the past. So I just wanted to make those comments and, again, hear your concerns, and they're very valid. So.
Excellent. And there was one thing I missed, just real quick. In there, it specifically mentions that the Canby Cleanup Day will be a particular time of the year. And I know it was brought to my attention that you had come to the council before and asked for some changes to that because it makes the city look trashy and it's extremely expensive for you. I think, but it doesn't sound like that. Oh, wait.
Jason, I believe that was the prior owner. That
was the prior owner. So let me bring it up then again. Okay. So apparently that was requested, but there was nothing really put in writing to that effect of that change of the franchise agreement. I think it might be good while we're cracking this open and dealing with some of this stuff that we sort of codify that language. I would ask, as someone who has tried to use a service, and some folks have shared this with me, the way the cleanup day is set up now is that you're allowed one cleanup day per year, but really it's one cleanup day per 12-month cycle. And what I would really like to see for the citizens is it change to per calendar year. In my scenario, I was helping a neighbor deal with a fence. And so I did the first part of it in the fall. And then the next spring, I did the second part of it. And then I had to get clever with using my neighbor's cleanup day because I was not allowed to use my annual cleanup day until that following fall. I think it might be nice for the citizens to be able to have a little more flexibility in when that cleanup day can be used. And that's the last of my comments.
I will definitely check into the timing on the cleanup days. My understanding was it was one per calendar year. And then we do the annual drop-off event. I think the contract says spring. We resumed it last year after a couple years of not having it because of COVID, and we had it in the fall. I'm certainly more than happy to have it in the spring if that's what the council would like, but we did have it last November and we plan to have it this October again for the annual drop-off event. And I would definitely get some clarification on the personal cleanup days as far as what the timing of how we're administering, how the customers can use it. But to my knowledge, it's once every calendar year.
Okay, when I had called and finally got a hold of somebody in customer service to schedule it, they denied me from doing it again the next year because I had to wait 12 months is what they told me. Yes, so like I could not, because I had scheduled it in September of that year, the previous year, I couldn't have another cleanup day until September or later of that next year.
Okay. Definitely get some clarification on that for you.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes.
Do you have a question?
Mayor, I guess the question is on the rate increase. I think the council person Patton has brought up some really good points, and it might be wise to revisit the franchise and have a discussion around the franchise agreement. But tonight we're here to talk about the rate increase, so I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
Okay, I move to adopt resolution number 1383, a rate increase and establishing a new rate schedule for garbage collection by Canby disposal within the city of Canby.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Davis and seconded by Councilor Patton to approve resolution number 1383, a resolution authorizing a rate increase and establishing a new rate schedule for garbage collection by Canby disposal within the city of Canby. Any further discussion? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 4-0. Gentlemen, thank you for being here this evening and hearing the feedback that's been presented. And I will work with city staff to discuss, the changes to franchise agreement and what that process would look like from our end, and work with you all to make some of those pieces happen.
Yeah, thank you for having us tonight, and I'll just end with, we are committed to continuing to be a strong partner with the city of Canby. As you mentioned, big shoes to fill with the Cahoon families, but Chris and I are committed to doing that and continuous improvement. So you have our commitment that we will work through these things and address your concerns. So thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Oh, really? Okay. No, it's no problem. I didn't want to be like late rambling all that stuff off and not have you something to go from.
Our next resolution is number 1384, a resolution adopting the updated city council goal and priorities. So back several months ago, the council did a work session. I won't say retreat because the retreat usually involves sun, beaches, and free drinks with umbrellas. So it was a work session to revamp and revisit some of our goals and objectives as a city. And we brought in a facilitator to help us get to what I think is very well fleshed out and detailed goals and whatnot that will carry us through this year, and will hopefully just enable us to do some tweaks going into next year. So we do keep a laminated copy at each place here at the dais, and so once we approve this, we will update that copy and make sure that a freshly minted copy is here at the dais for each one of us. So any questions or comments about what's being handled here? Yes, Councilor Davis?
Yes, I fully support and good work by our consultant that helped us put together. Nice work by the council and the administration as well. Just a few questions, and maybe Joe can check into this. He was here, but under goal 1, I would have thought for sure that we put in there that would the bi-monthly financial reports. I know we have the mid-year fiscal year report and budget, but I thought we also put in there, asked that the bi-monthly financial reports be put in there. But that's okay because we are receiving them, we get them, but I thought we were going to talk about fiscal accountability or stability on this. Other than that, that's the only one I found looking through the document.
If just to answer, so because one of the things, once you guys adopt that, we want to make sure that we, codify it and have it for you guys and for our drop-down list for staff reports and everything else. So if that is the majority here's desire to make sure that that's also codified on there, we can easily do that with adoption of this, and just with the mindfulness of what you're saying, we can put that in your goals, and then they can be in front of you.
Yep.
Because they're your goals, and we want to do what you guys want to get done.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Sounds like there's an affirmative to add that in.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
No, I know, it's all, yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move to pass resolution 1384, a resolution adopting the updated city council goals with the addition of fiscal responsibility as one of the goals.
Okay.
Second?
Thank you, Councilor Patton. Motion has been made to pass resolution 1384, a resolution adopting the updated city council goals as amended. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 4-0. Next up is ordinance number 1598, an ordinance authorizing the interim city administrator to amend the contract with First Transit Incorporated of Cincinnati, Ohio, increasing service hours to expand the Canby Loop and provide both first and second liability insurance. Mr. Lindsay, and I know Mr. Woods is here to enlighten us as well, because you know how much I love when staff is here, that I can have them come up front and do their presentation.
What up, Todd?
Every councilor's got their thing. Jason is exhaustive with, franchise agreements, and I like.
Afraid to sit here with the contract.
No, I had fun digging into that.
I bet
I'm
you
gonna have
did.
to start doing
Do you
this
have
more
my
often.
contract sitting there as well?
I have not done
I bet you
that.
Todd's got a few transit contracts to dig into.
Just dig through that.
I put you on the spot with the size of the buses last time, so I'm giving you a pass this time.
So this is just the second reading. Again, the CIS decided that they would no longer cover a contractor operating any of the city vehicles. Thus, we had to get first liability from contractor, which means we pay the contractor for the insurance. So sort of a roundabout way of doing the same thing. And then the other is the expansion of the Canby Loop. Our current contract, of course, has a set number of hours and a not to exceed amount, and the Canby Loop adds additional hours and additional not to exceed amount for Saturday, which will begin in September. So this just amends that contract to allow us to do those things.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 1598, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to amend the contract with First Transit Incorporated of Cincinnati, Ohio, increasing service hours to expand the Canby Loop and provide both first and second liability insurances.
That was
Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Varwig to adopt ordinance 1598, an ordinance authorizing the interim city administrator to amend the contract with First Transit Incorporated of Cincinnati, Ohio, increasing service hours to expand the Canby Loop and provide both first and second liability insurance. Roll call vote.
This time I'm not ready. All right, Councilor Patton.
Aye.
Councilor Barwick.
Aye.
Councilor Davis.
Aye.
And Council President Hensley.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Tom. Appreciate it. Next up is ordinance number 1599, an ordinance authorizing the interim city administrator to expand payment to city county insurance services, CIS, in an amount not to exceed $500,000 for liability insurance coverage for fiscal year 2023, 2024. Also a second reading. Mr. Lindsay.
Yeah. So at first reading, There was a sort of promise that I was going to meet with the insurance person and get the actual price. And when I met with said person, they still need us to verify all of the property and all of the fleet and everything, what we still own, so we're trying to do all that bookkeeping until we get the absolute price. So I do not have the absolute price. So the not to exceed number is still good. What I will say is I made sure and got the percentages, and they said they across the board were claiming that all of the property that any of their members own was going to go up automatically 7% because of inflation. So that's a number that we can sure count on, because it's going to cost 7% more to insure that. And then the other big piece was that for liability, it seems like the number was going to be 9%. That's where it was landing. So together, that's approximately, I think, 16% is what we're probably looking at. But those were kind of the quick numbers that they were talking about of how much it costs for us to have insurance, which it costs more to not have it, so.
True. Great. Councilor Patton, did you have a question or comment?
I was going to make the motion, if that's all right.
Please.
Okay. I move to adopt ordinance number 1599, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend payment to City Country Insurance Services, CIS, in the amount not to exceed $500,000 for liability insurance coverage for fiscal year 2023-2024 on second reading with a roll call vote.
I will second and have a question/comment.
Okay, motion's been made by Councilor Patton and seconded by Councilor Varwig to approve ordinance number 1599, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend payment to City County Insurance Services, CIS, in amount not to exceed $500,000 for liability insurance coverage for fiscal year 2023. Discussion item?
Yeah, I guess this is a question for Joe. Is it important in our motions to have the tag of the interim city administrator?
It's not essential because it's like, and I know that some of these have it and some of them don't, but no, the notion is she's sitting in the position of city administrator.
Wonderful.
The interim is just what, kind of the temporary nature of it, but.
Yep. I just wanted to make sure that we were good to.
She's given all the powers of the city administrator.
Perfect. Good to know. Thank you.
Good question. Follow-up question regarding the amount being $500,000.
Yeah.
So not to exceed that.
Yeah.
And so we're projecting that it's not going to go over that.
Yeah.
However,
yeah,
if that were to happen, then we basically have to bring this back to us.
Yeah, it could appear in the form of
Amendment.
Well, we can amend a contract up to 25% legally. But so that can happen, but then you would also see it as a form of a supplemental budget eventually, because it would be a bigger expenditure than, if that makes sense.
Nope, it does.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So roll call vote.
Councilor Patton?
Aye.
Councilor Varwig?
Aye.
Councilor Davis?
Aye.
And Council President Hensley?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Ordinance number 1600, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend payment to Safe Corporation in the amount not to exceed $94,274 for workers' comp coverage for fiscal year 2023-2024, also up for second reading. Mr. Lindsay.
And this is our second part of our insurance, which is our workers' comp. So CIS stopped doing this a few years ago, so we had to go safe. This is a hard and fast number that they've given us. On the back end, at the end of the year, if all of their members have had less claims, then we actually usually get a discount on the next year. So this is the worst news and a conservative estimate, but that's what we'll pay up front in order to get savings, and then they might give us a discount if their members are safer next year.
Okay.
So
thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Questions?
Joe, do we know what our insurance mod is? for our insurance mod from the insurance company? In other words, how did we do last year and how are we doing this year to establish our rate?
We are doing well. We had some workers' comp claims this year, a couple of them.
Yeah.
But we historically have done pretty darn well. And I don't believe this doesn't show that it raised any particular amount due to that.
Okay.
What happens is we are charged per hour per type of job. So if we add another officer, it actually is that's a more liability intensive. So we have gone up a little bit because of the type of work that we've added.
Right.
But it hasn't. We haven't been penalized for
injuries or anything.
Yeah, how injurious we've been.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Joe? Okay.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance number 1600, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend payment to Safe Corporation in the amount of $94,274 for workman's comp coverage for fiscal year 23-24.
I'll second.
Motion has been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Varwig to approve ordinance number 1600, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend payment to Safe Corporation in the amount of $94,274 for workers' comp coverage for fiscal year 2023. And that is for a second reading. Any other discussion?
This is a first reading.
No.
Yeah, second reading.
Second reading. It'll be a roll call vote.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
Okay. Any other discussion? The only comment I will make is that I'm glad that somebody made a motion, because if we deny it, there's a lapse in coverage until we find another one. So that really does create a problem. So thank you for Council President Hensley and Varwig making the motion and seconding. I don't want a gap in our insurance, so.
No, we don't want
roll call vote, Maya?
Counselor Patton?
Aye.
Counselor Varwig?
Aye.
Counselor Davis?
Aye.
And Council President Hensley?
Aye.
Great. Our next ordinance this evening is number 1601, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a 6-month service agreement with Janiking for $52,860. And this is the first reading of this ordinance. There you go. Mr. Lindsay.
Yeah, so the kind of the history of this is we've been with Janiking for about last 6 months. They were a contractor we found because the city suddenly found itself in need because of a matriculation of one employee, and then the other one actually got hired on in a different capacity. And so this was somebody that in a stopgap moment we had to contract out. We are pleased with the service as a city, and so we are now we've gotten 3 bids to extend that service for another 6 months so that we can go up for a full RFP. So under Oregon law, if it's over 150,000, then we have to go out for a full RFP. And so what we're trying to do is we did another smaller procurement at this level. We have to come to you because it's technically over 50,000. The original one wasn't, and so that's why you didn't necessarily see that. But this one is, and it's just as well to see it so that we can tell you that our intention is if we seal this up for the next 6 months, we will use that time to go out for a full RFP so that we can have a longer term, continuity in our contracting for this service. But we have gotten the 3 quotes according to Oregon law. And, we're just asking that you allow for this level of expenditure so that we can get our ducks in a row to have an even longer contract with whoever prevails in that process.
So, and just as a history piece, this was done in-house prior, and then
we had a long-time contractor who wanted to sail off into retirement that we had contracted with, and he had been here long enough that part of the council was asking us to go through an RFP process. In that process, there was a proposal to actually do it in-house. Okay. So the reason we're back here now is because because of the personnel, it became an urgency that then has actually worked out. So, so that's why we're here where we're at.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, Councilor.
Joe, for us new people, what's this for? What service?
Oh, this is for the janitorial service.
Okay.
So it cleans all of our facilities.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to approve ordinance number 1601, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a 6-month service agreement with Janie King for $52,860 to come up for second reading on June 7th, 2023.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Patton, seconded by Council President Hensley, to approve ordinance 1601, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a 6-month service agreement with Janet King for $52,860 to come up for second reading on June 7th of 2023. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes 4-0. Last ordinance of the evening is ordinance number 1602, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to approve a 60-month agreement with Direct Link for the city of Canby to come up for second reading on June 7th.
And I can speak to this one as well, Your Honor. So we have a long-standing relationship with Direct Link, who used to be CanbyTel, and so they have provided us our internet and our phones for a long time. We are happy with their service. When we look to extend this for 5 years, we did the public procurement process. We got 2 other quotes, and price isn't the only thing, but this we actually are ending up getting a good deal here, and I believe, are getting some new phones through it as well. And then this is one of those situations where continuity of service is actually really important too. So we're kind of putting that all together in a package where it comes in under $100,000 for the 5 years. So we're at the intermediate procurement process, and so we did get those 2 other quotes, but we are just asking that we're sticking with Direct Link at a good price.
Perfect. Any other questions, comments? Yes.
Yeah, so if I'm looking at this correctly, so we were paying $33,000, now we're gonna pay $19,000. So is this a cost savings?
Yeah, I believe that there is some cost savings. I think there was some negotiating around the type of service and the phone service and the internet service.
So do we know if our service is going to remain as good or better than what we had?
I believe it should be as good or better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 1602, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to approve a 60-month agreement with Direct Link for the city of Canby to come up for a second reading on June 7th, 2023.
Second. Motion's been made by Councilor Varwig and then seconded by Councilor Davis to approve ordinance number 1602, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to approve a 60-month agreement with Direct Link for the city of Canby to come up for a second reading on June 7th, 2023. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that passes 4-0. Next on the agenda is we have a couple of new business items. The first one is the discussion regarding Sole Source Outdoor Fitness Court. And I'll let Mr. Lindsay fill us in on that.
Okay, so this is in front of the council because it really is a public contracting question, but it's one of what the council is willing to find. So this is the court, sport court or fitness court that came in front of you a few months back, and there was a grant that was sought that some people were calling it a discount. but that this was part of the National Fitness Coalition. And so this is an apparatus that has appeared in other Oregon towns, and those towns have gone through a public procurement process that found that this was a sole source of this particular type of purchase. Now, under public contracting law, if you are over $150,000, you have to go out for an RFP. And so, unless there's a sole source, meaning this is the only person that sells this very particularized thing. So, right, a good example would be a very specialized sports car that's there's one of them around, right? And so that would be the only particular car that you could ever buy. So you can't ask around for those other sports cars to see how much they cost because there's only one. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is, in order to use sole source, the council has to find in advance of using that it is indeed the sole thing being sold. And so the company itself puts together a list of why they think they are a sole source, because they are used in conjunction with this specialty app that then it's the same as all of the other cities.
Your every move.
Yeah, well, there's that, but then also that you can go to other member cities and use their same exact apparatus in the same exact way. I guess the question is, do you guys find, and it really is whether the council wants to find this or not in an ordinance, in order to do this expenditure using a sole source theory, is that, would you find that really this is the only, or do you have an appetite to at least have us try to present to you a sole source theory versus going out for an actual RFP to do this? Because if there isn't an appetite to at least hear that argument, then we would have to go out, because it's going to be a $175,000 expense. So we just wanted to get that answer from the council. So if people are really saying, yeah, we think that there's enough justification that this sort of equipment is so particularized that it's the only way to get it, then if you're willing to do that, we could publicly contract that. If you're not willing to have that, I guess, or entertain that argument, then we would just go out for an RFP to make sure that we're doing the correct procurement process.
Okay, so just so I understand the question, either treat this as a sole source, sole sourcing, which means then you got to do your homework to figure out if in fact
you have to justify it to you guys,
or go out and do an RFP for however many days, open that up, and it very well could be this is the only company that puts in for that, but we then did our due diligence in that regards.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will say that I believe both Westland and Albany used the sole source justification. Okay. But it is a policy question, really, because you guys have to find that it was a sole source in order to use that under Oregon procurement law.
Got it. Yes, Councilor Davis.
Joe, are you comfortable with recommending a sole source on this?
I could they put together their arguments, and because sister cities have also done that, and because there is uniqueness to what they are selling. If the council wants me to bring forward that argument, I am prepared to do that for you guys.
Mayor, I'd be comfortable with that. And this is, again, this one is waiting on the Parks and Rec Committee as well. And if we're going to do that this year anyway, and or the possibility of losing it, I don't know if there's that, if we're going to lose the contract.
What happened was, and there's a lot of credit to Rand Potter, our senior planner. He has actually maintained contact with them, and he asked for just a little bit more time so that we can just ask this question, because if there is a comfort level with the council thinking that if there's enough justification, you could find that it's such a unique thing that we could use the sole source, then we could proceed that way. And so they were willing to wait for that answer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I think if we have two other cities that have use sole source for it, and they have documentation providing that they are a sole source, I'm comfortable with you bringing that forward to us.
Okay.
So as long as we can compare that with the other cities, you know what I mean, to see.
Okay. Joe, since the other two cities, which are, you said Albany and West Lynn, do we know, since they've done that, has there been any change in
The law or anything?
state law on that particular topic? No. Okay, thanks. Councilor Patton?
It sounds like we can move forward with doing this as a sole source. I was going to say, you know, what is the 80-20 of us getting in a lawsuit for doing it this way? It sounds like lawsuit is more in that 20 percentile.
Well, I don't want to necessarily give percentages. What I want to do is make sure that we're doing it right so that people feel like, you know, we're above board and that we're moving forward and following all the laws. So if I just wanted to be clear that the council is the one who's going to have to find that, I am prepared to argue for it and present it in a way that I think you'll be comfortable with it. But it is itself a kind of a unique, like I think we had to do that with our streetlights because there was only one particular manufacturer that made that particular thing. You see what I mean? So it isn't so unique. But anyway, there you go. And maybe our new city administrator has an opinion on it as well.
Yeah, just push that.
Okay. Council, I don't think it's a matter of 80-20 or avoiding a lawsuit as much as it is of making sure that the findings are adopted so that those findings exist. So.
Okay. And one last thing, I believe one of the other things that was talked about when we sent this back was the funding mechanism. I believe, wasn't it Councilor Hensley and I kind of agreed that this should be coming from SDCs, and I wasn't sure if that was part of the conversation, or no, it's a grant, so we don't, okay.
Well, no, it's
like a discount.
It's a partial grant. There's still a $175,000
that we pony
price that we'll be asking the council to pay for.
Okay.
So, or I should say, the contract will call for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think.
Okay, so Mr. Mayor, I know you control the agenda. Would you like to see this ASAP, like maybe even next meeting?
Well, we got a 2 Wednesday hiatus.
Oh, okay.
So
hopefully
we don't
we can
meet
get
till
it to
June
you.
7th. So, so
I think it's
city
doable.
administrator and I will convene and whatnot. If you think that it can be ready by the 7th, then I would say yes, if we can do that.
Okay.
Because the second meeting in June is very jam-packed with budget items and things. I know that this has been out there simmering for a little while. We should probably get that moved along if we can.
And I know that the advisory committee was excited about it and wanting it to happen. And sorry to steal your thunder, but
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah. And then I also know that the company would like to hear back whether or not we're going to pull the trigger. So
no, perfect. Yep. So I think you're good. You got direction.
Yeah.
Perfect.
How long do we have to wait for this?
Well, they had originally put a 30-day limit on it, kind of as a pressure thing. But what they didn't even realize is they are used to dealing with cities that only have to pass resolutions. Our special ordinance
because we're unique.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So they didn't realize that it was going to take longer than 30 days period anyway. And so that started a discussion where, come on guys, can you just wait a little bit longer?
Yeah. So I'm going to throw this out as hopefully there's no sharp objects over there. If this is something that the Parks Board has been kind of chomping at the bit for, and maybe there's like one or two other things that are hot to try, is it possible that we can have like a quickie meeting just to clean up some of this house stuff, like clean things up a little bit before 4th of July?
Well, yeah, this will.
June 7th, we have 2 meetings before 4th of July.
I thought you said we were going to be on a 2-week hiatus.
Yeah,
Oh, it's because of the way the month falls.
We have a
okay.
2 meeting hiatus.
Well, I mean, I'd still be.
Yeah, it's a 5 Wednesday.
So
I'd still be up
4 months a year, we get a 5-week month where we get a 2-week break between council meetings, so.
I'm just saying, we had to have a little quickie meeting to get this moving for the parks people. I could phone in from Utah, wherever I'm gonna be that week, so.
So, no, we're not gonna take the month of June off,
Okay.
if that's what you're looking for.
No, I am not looking for it. We got a lot of crap to deal with. It's all good.
Yep, okay. So Joe, I think we're good to, go forward.
we'll
for
get
the
right
negative sole purchasing piece for this aspect and bring it for the first meeting in June. Perfect. Next new business item is further discussion regarding the city administrator position recruitment process. So again, we just appointed Ms. Stein as our interim, and so we got to begin the process of going out and hiring a recruiting firm and beginning the recruiting process for a permanent city administrator. And so that's what this discussion is about. I know in years past, we've done internal, where our staff has taken care of the process. In other times, we've gone out, gotten an RFP for basically a recruiting firm to help us out. My 2 cents on the matter is based on the current bandwidth of activity and the narrowness of the availability of staff. I would recommend that we go and bring in or do a request for proposal to get a recruiting firm in and start with that first.
We should be able to do this. I believe last time it was right around 30,000.
But inflation, Joe.
Okay, so it will only require 3 quotes. So we can call it 3 consultants and try to get the best price. And then maybe present to you those options at the next meeting.
Well, if it can happen that quickly, that would be great.
Okay.
Again, this is not our first run through on this. So I'm sure there's a couple of names already on speed dial.
We've utilized 2 of the people I'm thinking about in the past, so the third will be easy to get a quote from.
Perfect. And so that's my 2 cents. I'm seeing some head nods and thumbs up to keep
I
going.
agree with you 100% on that. I wouldn't want to put the burden on staff to do it. I think we have enough going on right now, and I think bringing in the outside, it's nice to have a neutral third party when it's something this big anyways.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Thank you for that. Yeah. Moving into mayor's business. So the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, which is land use and transportation that I co-chair, we are having our annual retreat. And so I've been updated at our next meeting from that. So that's going to be just a very heated conversation over land use as it relates to houselessness, I think is the term being used currently, and then discussing transportation and our ongoing battle with tolling, congestion pricing. It might be both. So more to come on that.
Time of day.
Depends on the time of day. The Region 1 Area Commission on Transportation doesn't meet until June. Mark your calendars for May 29th at 11 a.m. There is a Memorial Day ceremony at Zion Cemetery. So please come out for that. Memorial Day weekend to remember those that have died in service and served our country. It's usually about half hour, 45 minutes. I think the Boy Scouts come out and do put flags on the graves of those that have served. So it is a very impactful morning. So please come check that out. Comprehensive plan. So the city's begun the whole revising of our comprehensive plan, and that development and the meetings for those are going to be starting here very, very soon. So please watch the city website. I will keep bringing updates here. There's a great many things regarding this that's going to be very concerning to the city in terms as we grow from the industrial park to housing to where roads are going to go in the future. So please watch that and get engaged. I want to say congratulations to Dragonberry Produce. They just they're within weeks of completing their new expansion for their warehouse, which will be quite phenomenal. They had a great reception last night that many of us here attended. The big thing for them that they're very excited about was that they're hoping to almost triple their workforce by the end of the year. And so as this is coming to completion, there's already discussions of what their next phase is going to look like that they're going to want to do here probably within the next couple of years. So it was very interesting at the reception. They had a trade delegation from Vietnam there, and there was the Consul General from San Francisco who heads up 11 states on the West Coast for trade. And it was pretty phenomenal to hear that Vietnam is number 11 in terms of trading partners with the U.S. And Dragonberry actually gets to be kind of spearheading a lot of really great things. So, over the years, Dragonberry's put into or introduced purple potatoes to Vietnam and pumpkin seeds. And, so those are a lot of Pacific Northwest specifics, but the pumpkin seeds, I know that we have a couple of growers here in the Canby area that have been able to benefit from that trade agreement. So more to come on that. It's definitely a big opportunity. And then also coming up, it's almost summer. Saturday market is going on now, so come check that out. And then there are events galore. So Slice of Summer, Canby's big weekend, a ton of stuff coming up. And so watch for announcements on those. I think that's my list for tonight. Councilor comments and liaison reports. We're going to start. Councilor Davis.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I knew you were up to something.
I don't know what gave it away.
Okay, first of all, Fire Board. We have 3 Fire Board members that were reelected yesterday. Chairperson Sean Carroll, Ron Swore, pastor of Foursquare Church, and Bo Ellis from District 2. Nobody ran against them, so they are incumbents coming back to the Fire Board. The levy, of course, did pass. Thank you to all the citizens that supported the Fire District levy. Currently, it sits at 60.54%, which is very good. So we very much appreciate that. The Fire District is going through fire officer testing as we speak. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow down at the Foursquare Church. That's establishing a civil service list. Chief Churro and I are hosting the police department over at the EOC. We're going to be doing a tabletop exercise on the 22nd. We get together with all of our agency partners, school district, police department, fire department, city staff, and this time we're also going to have the railroad there as well as AT&T, FirstNet. To talk about. And what we do is tabletop, and this particular exercise is going to be a substantial potential disaster in the center of the city that might require some evacuations and things. But what we do is we sit down, we just talk it over, and we get the agencies together just mainly so we can meet each other, know who's going to be in the emergency operations center at the time that we have a disaster like that. So we do have the emergency management, the director from Clackamas County Emergency Management, as well as myself, that will facilitate it. We generally only take about 2 hours, and afterwards we're going to have FirstNet there to talk about radio communications, cell phone communications, and how they can hook up their cell phones to our radios if they need to, so that we can have communications with the high school during the evacuation. The Canby Adult Center, if I could ask the interim city administrator to maybe make contact with Kathy Robinson, and I can go up there if you'd like with you and introduce you to her. But the prior city administrator was meeting with Kathy to talk about their remodel at the Canby Adult Center. And that particular building is owned by the city. And so the city has some responsibility for the remodel. And then, of course, they have funds available to do inside. But I know Kathy Robinson is fighting at the bit to get that continue. And I just want to reassure her that we're not missing a step here with the Canby Adult Center. I really appreciate what Kathy does up at the Adult Center.
Councilor Davis,
yes.
Can you repeat the date of the tabletop exercise?
Yes, that's the 22nd, Monday the 22nd.
Thank you.
Yep. George is going to have a lot of donuts there. The Canby Adult Center also had the Mother's Day lunch. This last Monday was well attended. Parks, the Parks Committee is very, very busy. We very much appreciate the old city administrator signing the contract for Arneson Park for that's out there now. So they're working on that as well. The Parks Committee worked closely with the Parks Director and the Public Works Director in regards to projects for next year's budget. So we'll have that list for our budget and for the budget hearing as far as what should be included in the budget, or at least what they would like to see included in the budget. Arts in the Park continues. And the Maple Street Park, that again is time sensitive. So, and I know Joe's aware of that, but just making sure that we stay on the contracts on that so that we can continue with that. And the reason it's time sensitive is August is coming up here very soon. And that's when we hope to start work, is after softball season, so that they can do the turfing and the lights at Maple Street Park. And then the mayor and myself have been in contact with COGEO, and we're continuing some discussions with COGEO in regards to the athletic field facility. They're ready to, well, we'll find out more information on Thursday when the mayor and I have our discussions with COGEO for the council, hopefully, so we can move that project forward as well. And the chamber, of course, has a new director. She's working out real well at this point, so we're excited to have the new director on board over at the chamber. That concludes my report.
Councilor Davis, we would love to meet the new chamber director, so if you wouldn't
I'll
mind
invite her to
inviting
a council meeting.
Council meeting, that'd be great. Thank you. Councilor Varwick.
Thank you very much. I have met her and she's lovely and excited for the chamber, so that's great. I don't have any liaison reports, but I did also attend the Dragonberry tour and dinner last night, and you know, it was, I've known that Dragonberry has been a very good community partner, but one of the things that they planned in their building is a space that they can allow the community to use. So it's really a really nice conference room and I guess event space. So that's great. I did learn, you know, some of you might know that when Dragonberry first came to our industrial park, they were one of the very first drought-resistant landscapes in the city of Canby, which I think is pretty cool. But what I learned yesterday during the tour is that as you look at the landscape, if you were to look at it as an overhead, it is actually a dragon that goes around their building.
Oh, really?
Which is interesting. Yeah.
I didn't, our tour guide didn't mention that part. They just
So-
talked about how they hold the water underneath it and reuse it. They didn't talk about the shape of the dragon.
So an interesting tidbit of information
Cool.
I thought I would share. So thank you very much.
Great,
I'll
thank
do the
you.
drones out so I can take pictures of them.
Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a big report. The Traffic Safety Commission will be bringing forward a recommendation. Eventually, they've been working on it for a while, but they've been talking about the red flex cameras again, so they're going to be presenting an idea to us in the near future. And I think that is all for liaison. I just wanted to add on to your Memorial Day announcement. We do have the ceremony at Zion, but following that, join us at the Legion for chicken dinner.
Groovy.
And that is all I have.
Thank you. Councilor Patton.
I am prepared, if not prepared. Okay, I got the green light. I have not turned this button off the whole meeting, okay? So the school board met, student update, midterm grades are out, AP testing is underway, the grads are making final plans as graduation is on the horizon and they enter a new chapter in their lives, which is both scary and exciting. Prom, I believe, is this week and the theme is Met Gala, and that tied into the fact that they did not have Spirit Week, so they did a Spirit Day, and the theme was to wear red in like as a nod to the red carpet for the Met Gala, which I thought was very clever. Congrats to the choir for winning state. I have a soft spot for choir because I was in choir when I was a kid, so that was really cool. And also the band and equestrian is going to state. I was also in the band as a color guard member, so the Go Band. The spring sports are wrapping up, and Chair Magenheimer actually made a really nice thank you to all of the students that served as the liaison, updating the school board for the season, because most of them, they're mostly seniors, so they'll be graduating, and so it'll be interesting to see the new crop of students get involved with participating in that process. The CARE Award this month was awarded to Peggy Garner, and if I've missed a letter in your name, I apologize. That's what I got from the video. Public comment was more regarding books, but I will say I was struck. Someone referenced the Waltons in their comment, and I wondered if any student in the school district would even know what that reference pertained to. So I thought that was interesting. They're waiting for the economic forecast to come in from the state so they can work on the next phase of their budget. As far as the building update, bricks are going up, sheetrock is being hung, and windows are going to be arriving for the new science wing this week or next. One of the big wins that they had was they changed the way they do their design build process, and they saved $1.7 million in making this one little change. And so I'm wondering if maybe we could reach out to the school board and figure out how they did that. Because if we could save a couple $1 million on some of the projects we do, I think that would be pretty cool. We could actually pave some more roads and put in some more sidewalks. And there was an update given on the dual language program, and it is doing well. As far as the Canby Utility Board, there was quite a bit of discussion regarding the new conference room policy or use policy. There was some more input from the board, and they're going to make another pass at the policy for the next meeting. Public comment, there was an individual that attended, and there was some concerns regarding the delay in EV charging stations, which was something involving both the Canby Utility and Canby Public Works. So I'm going to reach out to you folks to dig into that a little bit more. The safety audit went well, and they have a few things that they need to fix, like replacing a pole and some other stuff, and then they'll be good on that. There was a lot of discussion about future infrastructure as far as the water master plan should be complete next week, and they are continuing to move ever closer with looking at the new, how they'll do the permitting and stuff for the new water treatment plant. So I'm just gonna let you know, every council update, I'm going to mention the water treatment plant because it is going to be a big ask and we need to approve it as a city, not as a city council. And the Malala Water Group is applying for a new grant to fund testing of the Malala River water, which we currently pull from. They had put in for a grant, but they did not get it. And so they're going back through to see if they could do that again. And I will mention, similar to Councilor Davis's comment, you may want to reach out to Carol, who is the executive director over there at Canby Utility. She would meet with Scott from time to time, and so you might just want to introduce yourself to her. And the only other thing I have, and this kind of came to me while we were sitting here, right? Yeah. When I was a kid, the band, like for Memorial Day service, there was a parade and the kids would all come to the park and participate, and there was an organization that would give out like treats to all the kids in an effort to thank them for coming and participating. Is that something that we would be able to do, like help support, is treats to kids for that event, or is that a no-no?
I mean, I guess the answer is if that was something that the city wanted to spend its money on, sure. I would think is the question, is there a hope to do something like that this time around, or is there a hope to do it in the future? That sort of thing. And is this something that the council is all kind of asking for?
What do you think?
So first off, I would say that it's not necessarily a city-sponsored event.
Yeah.
So that's something to just keep in consideration. I'm not opposed to it. I don't know, again, numbers-wise, and what we could do to pull together. Like, what did you have in mind?
Well, when I was a kid, they would give like little ice cream cups to all the kids because it was usually hot. And so I just wasn't sure if there was, it just came to me, I wasn't sure if there was an appetite among council to maybe do something like that. Not for this year, but for future.
Sure. I'm not opposed. Councilor President Hensley, you're close to the organization that puts this on.
Yeah, it is a Legion-sponsored event, and I would be willing to look at this event and with those eyes, through that filter this year. Historically, I don't recall very many children attending.
I think he was meeting for the band that plays.
The band is not coming this year. That's a whole nother story I won't get into right now.
Okay.
And so I'm not opposed to doing something like that in the future, but it's not usually hot at 11 a.m. In May, and there's not a lot of children, but we could talk about something like that in the future.
Yeah, it's just a way to get younger people involved in the process, and
I mean, they might come if they knew there was ice cream.
Yeah, exactly. Get them to sort of understand the meaning of the actual holiday, not that they just get a day off.
Right,
sort of thing.
exactly. And it's not, a shopping day or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's probably a little late in the game for this year, but.
Yeah, it's just something I thought about while I was sitting here.
That's a good idea to talk about from maybe next year. I thought I saw it. Say.
That was it.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor, I like the idea, but maybe kick it over to Jamie and Tyler to kick around and come back to us with a recommendation on something like that. Because they do a lot of that stuff for us. And so I'd look to Jamie and Tyler Nizer to come up with a recommendation.
That's it.
Okay, thank you, sir. City Administrator, Business and Staff Reports. Ms. Stein, do you have anything tonight to talk to us? I'm just kidding. Mr. Lindsay.
Well, so, as a reminder, and I know you all know this, but the viewing audience, the first budget meeting is tomorrow at 6 p.m. Yeah. So there's that going on for the city, trying to get through those two budget meetings on those subsequent Thursdays here in May, so that then whatever comes out of that can go to you guys by the end of June, and we can kind of seal up the deal for the following fiscal year starting in July 1. And I would like to welcome Eileen Stein.
All right, thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
I do want to say one thing.
Yes.
I just appreciate the confidence placed in me in this appointment tonight, and I'm looking forward to getting to work.
Wonderful. Well, we appreciate that, and we're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor Patton.
I have a couple of questions about the staff reports,
Okay.
if I may.
Sure.
One of them is and I just for clarification, in the Chief Tro's report, there's some tables, and in it talks about traffic complaints, like the number of traffic complaints. Is that like people who call up and say this car is doing crazy things and here is their license plate number or their color, or is that what that is?
One way or a specific area. So like speeding vehicles on North Holly Street or something like that. So both of those directly come into us.
Okay, fantastic. And then the last one is I've noticed that on, as far as with the finance report, that the item that there is still, that the finance department is still struggling on a number of tasks to try and get caught up from the transition. Canby Utility Board was having a similar situation where they were falling behind in some finance stuff, and they actually brought on a consultant or like a subcontractor to help them get caught up on some of the things that could be handled by that. And I'm wondering if maybe that would be something that we should look at to try and help the finance department get caught up and get back on track so they aren't constantly feeling like they are being crushed under the 8 ball. That's just something that came to mind through that discussion.
Well, I don't think it's a bad idea with, Ms. Stein coming on officially tonight is her first day. I'd like to see her get her sea legs under her a little bit on what's going on and what does that mean. And I know that Mr. Lindsay will help get her caught up on that and on a number of issues, whatnot, facing Canby. And so if that becomes a conversation piece with the finance director and them, that would be something that they'll need to make a decision on and take a look at.
Okay.
So.
Okay. That was all I had.
All right. Next on the agenda is another opportunity for citizen input. Not seeing anyone rushing forward. Maya, action review.
You have approved the consent agenda, Resolution 1382, 1383, 1384, adopted ordinance 1598, 1599, and 1600, approved ordinance 1601 and 1602 to second readings on June 7th, 2023, approved staff to bring back information back for the Sole Source Outdoor Fitness Court for the 6-7 meeting, or June 7th meeting, and approved an RFP process to begin regarding the city administrator position recruitment process.
Well, I just asked that that's not an RFP, but a intermediate procurement process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Great. I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second them.
Okay.
Said at the same time, so.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn the city council meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so please, we're adjourning the city council meeting, but we are going to be taking a brief break because following this is a urban renewal agency meeting here in probably the next 7 minutes. So thank you very much. Good night, Canby, and we'll see you beginning of June.
Good evening, Canby. Welcome to the Canby Urban Renewal Agency meeting for May 17th. We've had a long evening of city council meetings before this, so we are a little bit later than the posted time, but we will get going. The second item on our contract or on our agenda is citizen input and community announcements. Do we have any? Nobody wants to speak for tonight. Perfect. Moving right along, I will take a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Moving on to item number 4. This will be quick. We are going to get an update on fiscal year 22 Urban Renewal Agency annual report, projects, and our debt service. And I believe, just Jamie going to start and then Eric will come up. Okay, perfect.
Can I just say something before we start?
Yes.
We're going to do the annual report, but the more specific questions that you guys have, I have stuff to deal with that after the report is over.
Wonderful. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. Hello, Jamie.
Hello. Good evening. Jamie Stigall, Economic Development Director. And so tonight we are going to present the Urban Renewal Annual Report as a refresher for some of our longer standing agency members and to bring up to speed our newer members. The annual report looks at 2022, so a lot of this information is going to feel outdated, but we want to use it to serve as a reminder of the projects that we've done. We have some information about projects that have been discussed in the past but not completed or not started, and then I'll turn it over to Eric, who will present the financial data and then answer the questions that you have. So as a reminder, the Urban Renewal District goals and objectives diversify the economic base and family wage jobs within the district, to maintain effective, efficient, and safe traffic system for vehicular and pedestrian users. The third goal is to improve and retain existing businesses, and goal 4, to improve attractive visual amenities for customers and community members throughout the district. So one of the items that we worked on in 2022 was the industrial park access, which included the traffic signal at Sequoia Parkway and Hazeldale Way. That's where Fred Meyer is located. The city spent $25,000 on that project. And as a reminder, that project is a way to, as a mitigation effort for moving industrial park traffic from the Canby Pioneer Industrial Park to Highway 99. It also serves to move traffic from the south side of town as residents have increased there to Highway 99. That's the city's first traffic signal, and then we have an agreement with Clackamas County to maintain that traffic signal. Additionally, we've been working on the Walnut Street Extension project, which is the industrial park to Highway 99 Street extension. Walnut Street is where Columbia Distributing is currently located. OLCC is planned to be developed across the street from there. The city purchased with urban renewal funds in 2019 the property directly across the street as the first step towards building that road to Highway 99. The city spent $385,000 and some change on that project, and that includes beginning engineering, right-of-way. Our Public Works Department is taking the lead on that project. The downtown, yes.
Sorry, do you prefer questions at the end?
I prefer questions whenever you prefer to ask them.
Well, then I have a question. So the $385,000 there for the Walnut extension piece, is that urban renewal dollars? It is.
This money, yes, all of the money that's talked about in this presentation is urban renewal funded. The downtown quiet zone and Grant Street Arch, the quiet zone in 2022, we spent $353,000. That was design, engineering, construction. As you remember, the agreement with the Union Pacific Railroad, which wasn't just to be able to do the quiet zone, complete the quiet zone, but then also there'll be, work as we continue. We have the agreement with them, and then also the right-of-way acquisition, which was with several of the private property owners at Grant, Ivy, and Elm Streets. With that project Also came the Grant Street Arch, and the city spent 17,000, almost 18,000 in urban renewal funds for the Grant Street Arch, which is of course across Grant Street at Northwest First Avenue. The 2002 for the Facade Improvement Grant Program. So the interesting thing about when someone applies for and receives a facade improvement grant is that that project you have 2 years to finish the project. So Caldera International applied in 2021, but some of the funding was paid out to them in 2022. That included masonry cleaning and painting, the double doors, which were where the book nook is, and window replacement. Holly Mall also utilized the facade improvement grant with exterior paint, exterior lighting, and we included signage, but that is just for the hardware and the mounting material, as the Urban Renewal Agency of years prior were concerned with businesses, if a business could change every 6 months, but making the investment in the hardware and the mounting materials, that's usually something that stays with the building. And then additionally, Ace Glass, which had seen an accident kind of tear a new hole through their front that was not originally there. So they refurbished the building's exterior appearance with painting prep, repaired that that CMU block wall, repaired and replaced windows, and then primed and painted that exterior as well.
Jimmy, I have a question for you in regards to the facade improvement. How are we verifying or vetting the dollars spent on that? Are we just writing checks when they give us receipts saying they did it, or are we, Ace Glass is the key one for me, right? Is you look at it and it doesn't look a lot different than it did prior. It's not trying to discount the work that was done there, but it doesn't look like it was good use of our funds. How are we ensuring that if we're going to spend money on a facade improvement, that it's going to actually improve a building?
Well, Ace Glass is, I think, a great example. A car had gone through the front of that. So before the funds were utilized and the grant was applied for, there was a hole with plywood in front of that. Or years past, I'll use the building that we see here when it was Parsons Pharmacy. Due to a storm, the awning had been ripped. And so even though it was replaced with a new awning, it looked very similar to what it looked like before. Or if it were to be painted, it might look similar but be fresh. Yeah. And so we make sure that they do what they say that they're going to do when it comes before you guys with their application.
So I know we had the conversation about ACE prior. Anything that should have been covered by their insurance, shouldn't it be something that facade improvement should cover? Is that correct?
Well,
so replacing blocks, if a car drove through it, that car's insurance should be paying that, not us, right?
They applied for the grant for up to $25,000 to repair that building for their part of it, and they submitted the receipts. They followed the process. As far as like the insurance and who paid for their half or how it was paid, that is not something that the city follows necessarily.
Okay. So that's one thing that I would like to see us do, is ensure that if we're spending money, I want us to have a say in what they're doing and making sure that we're not just writing checks to everybody who says, Joe Schmo owns a construction company, can write a bid for whatever he wants to write it for.
Well, we pay on the lowest bid also. So it could be, they provide the bids to us, and it could be 2 bids if it's under 15,000. Yeah. If it's over 15,000, it's 3 bids. And then the city reimburses the money on the lowest bid. So even if they went with the highest bid or, used someone that they had used in the past to do work, that's the process for that part.
Okay. I just think there can be some refining to that so that we have a little more proof or say, and we can have a side conversation about that, because I do have some concerns about a couple of different things, but we'll have a side conversation on that.
I would agree with Commissioner Varwig, is that was clearly an insurance claim. It's not our job to benefit them to replace what was there. It's supposed to improve, and we're not there to finance their business to put down the deposit that they couldn't afford to pay to the insurance company to replace that building. And same with the awning on the building too, so I fully support that. what is the benefit of that facade improvement if it's not improving the looks of that building to improve the economy?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One, I'd be careful as a group here throwing out those kinds of like statements of, to Ms. Tickle's point, how we do get a say. Like that design comes to us as an agency and we can say no. I remember distinctly we had a conversation about a storage company that wanted to do some improvements on their storage units. And it became a big conversation of like, well, what do we consider blight, and then do we spend money to give a grant to storages? We didn't decide which businesses I mean, I wasn't a big fan of doing storage units necessarily, but in this state, I think to answer your question, Commissioner Davis, was I think there's an intrinsic value to them. Was there much of a change? No, but the paint was different. It was fresher. It was cleaner looking. It's a wonky corner to begin with. I get all that, but I think that it cleans up a building even if it's fresh paint. So that's, I mean, my 2 cents piece of it. And like I said, I just think we got to be careful. We don't know what the damage was. We don't know what insurance was going to cover or not cover. That's not for us to decide how that goes. But I mean, I don't know how we put something in place that curtails that or clamps down on the funding mechanism that they're going to use to make their portion of the grant.
Yeah.
May I also make one more point? The facade improvement grant, and especially with some of these cases, we talk in terms of the business, but a business can apply, and certainly a business that owns the building, but really it is about the property. The investment is in the property, so that the reason, example, the signage with the hardware and mounting material, it's so that it's not something that can quickly be changed over. It's so that the buildings and the long time investment is kept in Canby to eradicate the blight that is there, whether that's, a small improvement for some people, for some of the property owners or the business owners who might not be able to update, or they can't do a huge, we've had people max out their 25,000, but we have some that just use for paint or for windows because that small investment is all that they are able to do, or all that their business who's renting that property is able to do, but that it still makes it's not always a huge flashy redevelopment. It sometimes is new paint or something like that, but it's so that the investment sticks with the property.
Yeah, I do think there's some concern among the council. I know I've heard from a couple people, so maybe this is something, especially as we're going through the budget process, and I don't mean to go off track with it, so maybe I'll just mention to Ms. Stein and Joe, if maybe at a future meeting we can have a further discussion about the facade improvement program. And now we can work out some of them. Maybe that's a work session. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry to hijack your report.
That's okay.
Oh, Jason had a question.
Did I? No.
He did not. Okay. Continue.
Scratching his face.
So one of the other items that we have spoken about with the Urban Renewal Agency in the past is just the possible uses of the remaining urban renewal funds. And so we wanted to make sure to include that in this presentation, because obviously as we're talking about what has been done, and then when Eric comes up and is speaking to the financial aspect of the Urban Renewal Agency and the Urban Renewal District and the funding, just so that we could kind of help to bridge that gap with the further conversation that will be had, but that there were projects that were outlined as part of the urban renewal plan and then by the previous urban renewal agency. The ones that are in bold at the top were ones that had been previously identified as priority projects, which included painting the logging trail bridge and installing a footbridge, that provided access to the logging trail bridge. Then also redeveloping Northwest 2nd Avenue, the downtown alleyways, updating those. But then also projects like completing 1st to 2nd Street on North 1st Street and Grant Street, or Northwest 1st Avenue from Elm Street to Douglas, Township Road from Baker Prairie Middle School to Sequoia, and then additional Waite Park improvements. So we just wanted to make sure that we were providing those. They have been as part of a previous presentation, but just so that you had them as while you're talking through the finances to reference if you'd like.
I think we need to add to that list the reimbursement to the city from the Urban Renewal District for the community park, which we haven't had discussion on yet.
Well, I think that reimbursement falls under the city council, and we don't have those hats on right now, correct?
I would say it's both. You can have either conversation because you're the agency, so the agency has a say in whether or not.
Yes, I was going to say, Chair, have you written a memo to the mayor about this?
The memo has not yet been written. My apologies, everyone. The mayor and I have had a conversation that the memo is coming, but I will officially write the memo.
Okay.
So this is only one side of that two-way conversation.
Okay, very good.
How do you like it?
24 years. And so with that, I think it is Eric's part of the presentation.
Thanks, Jamie.
Hello, good night. How are you?
Good evening, Eric.
Okay, I'm going to go through the financial stuff quickly. You guys can stop me and ask questions anytime you want. So first up is the maximum indebtedness schedule. This just details what the maximum indebtedness is for the URA, the 51 million, how much is available for URA projects, all the expenditures that have been counted against the maximum indebtedness, and the remaining debt capacity available for future projects at the bottom. So you can see the total expenditures against maximum indebtedness at the end of June 22 was 52.8 million, leaving the debt capacity for future projects at 4.46 million.
Question?
Yeah.
Sorry. Where does the refinancing come in, the refinancing amount, that when we refinanced?
What do you mean exactly?
Well, when we refinanced to a lower interest rate, Joe, maybe you can help me out on that.
Yeah, it was a lower interest rate. There were 3 bonds that were put into one
Right.
debt, and then that debt payment was increased, and the term of all those, the first 3 loans, they would have been paid off in 2036, and with the refinancing, they get paid off in 2026. So it shortened the debt payment schedule by 10 years.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the savings came out of the shorter.
The interest savings.
Right, the interest savings, yeah.
The interest we didn't pay savings, yeah. So
That was that $6 million number that we've seen, right?
Yes.
So it wasn't cash savings, it was just interest savings, so it's not extra money to spend?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. So here we have the charts for the increases in incremental assessed value on the left and the revenue on the right. So the value of all the properties in the URD is shown on the left-hand side starting in 2002. Now this is the incremental assessed value. It's not, so that's why it starts at 0. So when the Urban Renewal Agency was started, we're assuming the values are, at 0 for this incremental chart. So you can see that it's gone up, over $250 million in value, the property. The chart on the right shows the incremental revenue that has gone up. So we're looking at about $4.5 million worth of property tax revenue now, and it started around $500,000. These are all the impacts on the taxing district. So the very far left is the assessed value of all of the properties in the URD. The incremental assessed value removes the frozen base amount. So when the URD started, it had a base value. And so this incremental assessed value is just how much the value of the property is going up, removing that frozen base amount. Then the columns for Clackamas County, the city and the swim, Clackamas Education, Fire District, Clackamas Community College, Port of Portland, School District, and the vector control. That is how much property tax revenue is taken and then used by the Urban Renewal District to invest in that area. So the total taxes levied, far right column, is 43.49 million. That's how much revenue has come into the URD from property tax to use in reinvestment. Any questions?
If I may, I just want to point out in this chart, and it's called out here in this report, and, you know, the Urban Renewal District gets a lot of flack for its creation, which I think is unfounded. But I think it's important to drive home these numbers, and that when the taxing district was froze in 1999, correct? It's listed here that the tax base that was frozen at that period of time was $65.6 million. It's currently valued at the $338.6 million. So in 25 years, that land has generated $273 million in new taxes. There is no way, and I don't care who slices the pie whatever way they want, there is no way that the city could have created that big of a gap, that big of an increase in that value to benefit all these taxing districts without creating this urban renewal district. There was not enough money in the city budget to put in that infrastructure. And I just think it's important to drive that fact home.
I love numbers, and when I started digging into this, it was shocking how much the value has gone up in there and how much property tax revenue is being generated by this. I think the city should be really proud of this district. Next slide. So these are the cash flow projections. This was done on fiscal year 22, and the projections for 23 moving forward I did like last July and then updated this in February. So we're going to look at this, but I have updated stuff that I brought that we can look at later that hopefully will give you guys a better idea of how much money is remaining. So, you know, in 23, when I did this, you can see what we had for projects listed there, the URD projects. Well, let me start at the top. There's the property tax revenue coming in and the beginning fund balance. So the resources are about 5.6 million. In the expenditures, we have the due to the city, which essentially is funding the economic development department. Then there's some programs, beautification and the facade program. And then there's the capital projects. The URD projects are maybe projects that are smaller, didn't take off or whatever, so I haven't identified them specifically in there. At 50,000, the Grant Street Arch at 125, Waite and Community Parks at 425, and the Logging Bridge at 425. Lower section is the debt payments, and those are the actual debt payments we have. The ones you see right there are all the ones that need to be made. When that one is made in FY 2026, all the debt is paid off. So in this chart, the projected maximum indebtedness remaining at the end of 23 was estimated at 3.3 million. I don't want to spend too much time on this one because I have some updated sheets that I think will be more relevant to you based off of more accurate numbers from just finishing the budget. So here we have the assessed valuation of the whole URD at 339 million. The frozen base was 66. The increased amount of valuation is 273 million. There's a 3% annual increase in Oregon, so if we remove that, we can see that due to development, 213 million of assessed valuation has occurred since the beginning of the URD, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, that's it. Does anyone have any questions about any of that?
Eric, is that 213 in the industrial area only, or do you know areas of where that 213 comes from?
I'm not really sure exactly where the urban renewal boundary is. In this report I have, it shows it, but I'm not.
It's that bow tie, so it's both industrial parks. So the Johnson Controls area too.
Right.
Yeah, and then the other industrial park, and then the downtown core is also within that, and then there's a little stretch down to Community Park as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but primarily the industrial area.
Yeah, because I'm not sure, I assume Community Park valuation went up just by that 3%. You know, what the assessor looks at.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the report, sir, there is a map in here that's got the URD areas shaded in there.
Yeah, I know what the URD looks like. I imagine the Dahlia building would probably be the only thing downtown that really added value.
Which building?
Dahlia.
The Dahlia.
The Andrews building was
The Andrews Building.
across from White Park. I mean, it's not as significant as the Dahlia, but that was definitely one.
Yeah, but probably the Dahlia. So a majority of it's the industrial area. Yeah.
Okay, Maya.
Eric, is there a possibility that due to the city line, is there a possibility to get that broken down so that we know?
I got it.
You've got that? Okay,
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. So let's just look at let's look at the budget first so I can show you guys where to look. Well, you already know, Sean, you just pulled it up. The due to economic development line there. This is the budget that we just turned over on Friday. So the due to economic development is the amount of money that actually and we're projecting and proposing to transfer from the URD over to the general fund. So, okay, so this is the urban renewal saying that, well, let's just look at FY 2024. That urban renewal is going to give $425,000 to the general fund for the economic development department. So can you click on the economic development page? Thank you. And right here under transfers in and other sources, you can see the transfer from the UR is the same 425 coming from the urban renewal district to the economic development as a resource. Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
So we're that 425. What is the 425? Is that, I assume, the economic development director, the other person, as well as city administrator, a certain percentage of city administrator?
Correct.
And how do you project closing that out without making an impact to the urban renewal district as 26 approaches?
Yeah, good question. Let's see. Can you click on the month end to UR?
Yeah.
So I just want to talk about this to wrap up the funding there. So at the end of every month, we have to do a journal entry where we transfer money from the urban renewal district over to the general fund. This is part of the spreadsheet that I've set up that calculates it. So you can see that the regular salary and wages are included, the employee benefits, the insurance benefits, taxes and PERS. Those are actual charges that happen during the month that we cover. Then down below, that's labeled as materials and services. We have the copier lease, the internal charges. There's the Independence Day expenses, the flower program, and you can see it's all totaling up there. Can you scroll down a little bit more? There's the overhead transfer to the general fund. So all of the expenditures that happened in the economic development department total up there to the $51,770 for April, right? And then, can you scroll down just a little bit more? Oh, I guess you can't. I guess we can see it enough. That screen's in the way, obviously.
I can bring those to the screen.
Okay. So then, I don't know why, but this is the way the previous finance team was doing this journal entry, so I'm just following them, but they removed the Main Street expenditure, the Independence Day expenditure, the flower program, the economic development city grant expended, and then they removed 50% of the tourism coordinator. So Tyler Works is in the economic development department. Sorry, I shouldn't have used his name. And I figure out what his wage is for the month, and then I put it there in the yellow box, and then the green box is dividing that by 2. So then we calculate that $47,411 needs to get transferred over. So I wanted to show specifically what I'm doing to get the money transferred over. As far as what you were asking about the city administrator, I know that doing the personnel estimates for the budget, that some portion of that person's pay is attributed to the economic development department. I don't remember the exact percentage, but I know it's under 10%. Jamie's 100% in economic development, and Tyler is as well. So 2 full-time employees in there. And I haven't heard what the plan is for 2026.
I might have additional information for you, Councilor Davis. In the past, the city was thinking about relying a bit on the transient hotel tax to potentially help pay for tourism. I think that's why you're seeing that potential tourism coordinator position, right? And then I believe one of the strategies too is frankly the recognition that when the URD dissolves, there will be money coming to the city as well. So there'll be an additional, I think it's maybe $1 million a year. Yeah, and so that could, and that would be the will of the council, the budget committees, and the city administrator to theorize, what strategy they want to employ using that money for existing staff and services.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So another question for you, and sorry to be difficult. So if I'm understanding you correctly, economic development, their entire cost minus the 50% for the tourism coordinator is paid for out of urban renewal.
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm trying to formulate my question because I know that our economic development director does more than just stuff within the urban renewal district, right? So it expands outside of that, right? Because it's for the entire city, as well as I believe she's part-time communications. So is that also paid for out of urban renewal? And if so, why is urban renewal paying for salary for outside of the urban renewal district?
I wasn't involved in the talking about why the economic development director was paid out of urban renewal. I mean, that's just what happened when I got here. I'm just following. Go ahead.
Well, and it wasn't necessarily my decision either, but that's the way it's been set up. And I believe that if there is, it sounds like a question and or a longing for a different way of doing it, the city can react and the urban renewal district can react as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a concern, right?
Yeah.
I think she's here. Obviously, I think that our economic development director does a phenomenal job at her job.
Thank you for saying that.
If she is also doing part-time communications, She is doing economic development outside of the boundary of the urban renewal district. It seems like a conflict that the urban renewal district is paying the salary for work done outside of the urban renewal district.
Well, Jason threw his hand up there, so.
Yeah, go Jason.
I mean, when you look at the urban renewal district boundaries, it mostly includes the industrial parks and the downtown core. And most of the work that's done, I mean, I don't believe that the economic development director is like coordinating events on North Birch Street, which isn't like part of that. I would be curious to see, I mean, if we really want to dig into it, I'd be curious to see exactly what percentage of their like work is outside of the urban renewal district. My suspicion is that it's actually a very low amount.
And that might be. It's just
well, and I should say the original goals, I think it was the first slide, was to try to enhance existing businesses as well as, and I realize that those are very particularized as they are in the actual district, but elevating those businesses and having, say, events and things like that to elevate those also at the same time in tandem elevates everybody. So I think it is a matter of how much we want to try to quantify that, and if there is an appetite on the urban renewal agency's part to then have a different calculation about percentages.
I know I'm just one person. I do think that conversation should be had at some point, maybe not necessarily tonight, but I see the importance of that position long after this agency is closed. And so we have just a few years, and so we probably need to start having those conversations now of how do we fund that position once this is closed, because I don't want that position to go away.
Yep.
So, Vice Chair Hudson.
Thank you. To answer your question, so I haven't said this in a while, but we're going to go in the Wayback Machine. I know, an oldie but a goodie.
Drinking game.
I know. Fill out your bingo card. So back pre our current economic development director, the decision, so back not too long ago, so there was a percentage of the city administrator's salary. It was, I think, anywhere from 8 to 10% was paid for out of the urban renewal district. Certain materials and services, which you've covered, also paid for that. And then the economic development director, a big portion of that salary was picked up by the general fund because, and the other aspect of that was under the Main Street umbrella. So Main Street was an actual national program that we were a part of. And so that role of economic development director played into that, which is why all that salary was put in, or a big chunk of the salary was put in. So 2007, 8, was that the big like bottom falling out of the economy? The decision from a budgetary standpoint was to move all of that salary into the urban renewal district to alleviate some pressure off of the general fund for that couple of years' budget, and we've just never moved any portion of that back, knowing that once the district closed, that more than likely we're going to keep that position, and therefore those funds would roll back, funds rolling in, but also that expense rolling into the general fund. So that's kind of why that is where it is right now. And so my guess, and this is maybe a budgetary conversation on the city front, that from a communication standpoint, is that added salary being taken out of, lumped in as urban renewal expense or city expense?
And I would assume without absolutely knowing that her base rate, or the base rate of that position is just the number that you're seeing. So if there was a, 5% boost or whatever it was, that's coming out of that.
Coming out of?
Out of the urban renewal, I believe.
Okay.
But that would be my assumption. I can be disabused of that with actual facts.
Well, maybe we could clarify.
Yeah,
some
yeah,
of those things.
for sure.
That'd be great,
That's a
especially
good
as we
question.
go into budget conversations.
Yeah, just curious, like, I mean, again, you know, again, the communications angle was something that the council had said, as we put on our other hat, that be something that we wanted to have happen and done. And so, again, sometimes, you know, is it a rob Peter to pay Paul kind of thing, knowing that, again, is that economic development as well, which we know that can be the case, so.
Yeah, and thanks for the history on that, Brian. I think it's important, the important point is what Joe brought up is that, you know, we're going to be seeing this $1.2 million. I have no problems with the $420,000 today, but I think that as we get into the budget planning side of it, we definitely have to start laying out what's the projection in '26 for revenue coming in, and what's that budget look like, because we have to incorporate those wages back into the general fund budget.
That's right.
Chair Varvig?
Yes, sir.
Perhaps in the memo that you are going to send to the mayor, you should include a request that they start to evaluate the budgetary process of absorbing the economic director back into the general fund.
Hey, Maya, could you go back to the annual report? The PowerPoint presentation?
Just kill two birds with one stone.
The request, so it's actually smart to do it. Hold on a second here.
So on this slide right here, when we look at the city and swim local option levy column for 2022, that 952,000 at the bottom, that's how much property tax revenue would be coming to the city and the pool when the urban renewal district closes.
In '22, yeah, I did receive an update from the county assessor's office, and today it's $1.2 million.
Yeah. Okay. Can you put the PDF up that says do not use on the end? Yeah. Okay, so this is the cash flow projection that I just did like an hour before I came down here using, I put in the FY 2023 adopted budget numbers, and then I filled in the FY 20, because 2023 is going to be done in like a month or so. I'm just for this meeting, I'm assuming the year of 2023 is over, just so we can look at this projection thing, okay? So the numbers for FY 2024 are the numbers that are showing up in the URA budget that we emailed out last Friday. So the property tax revenue shown at the top, can you scroll down? So those expenditures that are showing the due to the city community park at 100,000 and the logging bridge at 50,000. That's what's appearing in the FY24 URA budget. And then we have the debt payments. So resources minus requirements for FY24 leaves us an ending fund balance of 418. And then there's the projected maximum indebtedness shown at the bottom. But what I think is important on this slide is if you look at the capital projects for the URD, we have the 150 in 2024, and then the 900,000 in 2025, and the 801,000 to close it out in 2026. That is my estimate on how much money is available for projects in the URD for 24, 25, and 26.
So less than 2 million.
Yep. But so I just wanted to show you guys that.
That's great.
The other thing that comes to mind for me is once Walnut Street is complete, there might be some land, the the property that we own, the URA owns, right, is going to have an acre or so on each side, I believe, of where we're putting that road. So there might be some found money.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not sure what that will be valued at or how we'll negotiate that. But that is also just putting it on your minds, because this agency will have to think about that.
Well, in anticipation of, I don't want to put my city council hat on here, but in anticipation of what the city council is going to have to authorize to pay back to the Urban Renewal Agency for Community Park, because that was overexpended. That was budgeted 420 and it was 700 and some $1,000. So I assume 300 and some thousand from the city budget over to Urban Renewal.
You're absolutely right. We still have supplemental budgets to do at the end of '23. And so those numbers could change, but that's just based off what I had today.
Right.
Any other questions? That was all I had.
Any other questions for Eric?
No, great job, Eric. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, if there's no other questions, that is the end of our agenda, except for an adjournment.
I just wanted to thank Eric for the report tonight.
My
Good
pleasure.
information.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
I need to stay here all night otherwise. It's been moved, it's been seconded. All in favor?
Too.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good night, Canby. Have a great evening.